my co-host Matt Druin on. We're
What's
just waiting
up?
for our guest. Hey, what's up? Just waiting for our guest Elam to jump on. So Matt and I will continue the conversation until he gets here. We are just talking about the downtown Rochester area and some of the commercial trades that are happening, and just the fact that a lot of that real estate is pretty much ready to turn over if it's not turning over right now.
Yeah, super excited about it. One of the projects that I worked on is, we own two buildings, actually three buildings in like the Four Corners area of like downtown Rochester. One is 17 East Main Street. The other one is the Wilder building. 17 East Main Street is a 22,000 square foot like mid-rise building. It's got a bar in the basement, let's not call it the basement. I'm a former realtor. I shouldn't do that, right? So in the lower level, and then a restaurant on the first floor, and the rest of it's office use. We bought that building 100% vacant. The only reason we bought it is because we were negotiating really hard on Wilder building, and we didn't have it under contract, but we're like, okay, this thing is in the market. Let's just make an offer. It was listed for like $350,000. We offered, I think, $150. They countered at $175, and we locked it up. And so we've actually, since we got such a low basis in that building, we were able to lease it up pretty quickly, much to our surprise. But as a hedge against that, in terms of like, there's a lot of functionally obsolescent office buildings in downtown Rochester that are slated for residential conversion. Mm-hmm. And 17 East Main Street, we went, we're like, okay, well, let's get this thing eligible for historic tax credits in the event that we have to redevelop it into residential if it doesn't work out as office or business use or whatever. And so we went for a determination of individual eligibility with the Landmark Society. They put together this comprehensive application, sent it to SHPO, State Historic Parks Office, and they denied it. Even though the original building was built in 1888, during urban renewal, they stripped the beautiful facade off the building. If you're listening to this right now, go and Google 17 East Main Street and look at like the historical photographs of it from like, the early 1900s. Absolutely ornate, beautiful building. During urban renewal, they stripped this facade off and put this sort of like mid-century modern facade on it. And because of that, it was denied by SHPO because it had been modified. But they kind of like inserted like a little, well, if you do get a district established, a historic district established, like a nationally registered historic district, then this would be considered a contributing building to the urban renewal story. Mm-hmm. So that's what we did. It was like, so we hired Landmark Society, and I think the cost was like $11,000 to put forward an application for SHPO to assemble a district. And so we thought it was going to be like no problem to like go to the other building owners that were going to be in the proposed district that also had non-contributing buildings that were non-contributing on their own, and that the establishment of the district would allow them to be eligible for historic tax credits, which historic tax credits are absolutely mission critical to reactivating any of these old buildings that are old office buildings downtown. Like it doesn't work otherwise.
Right.
Because they're so expensive to rehabilitate and convert into housing. So I thought it was going to be a slam dunk, so I was going around basically trying to shake some change loose to, from a few other building owners there. And nobody wanted to help contribute. Like one guy has like a 300,000 square, I'm not going to name names here, but at a 300,000 square foot building that, and this would be like a, $100 to $200 million project on a historic tax credit. We're talking about tens of millions of dollars worth of historic tax credits that this project would qualify for. We're asking them for $3,000 to help us get this thing going. And it was like, nah, hard pass. And here we got like this 22,000 square foot building, which is like a peanut. But we eventually got over the finish line, and we got news that a couple weeks ago, all the building owners around there got letters from SHPO and said, hey, your building qualifies for historic tax credits now. So nice. We're trying to work on, right now we're at a critical point in sort of paving the way for what the west side of the river is going to look like in downtown Rochester. Mm-hmm. And I think that it's critical to collaborate with other building owners in downtown Rochester, so we can actually work together to create a vibe, because this area has no vibe. And so I think the west side of the river, where our buildings are right now, including the Wilder building, are, my friend Joel Barrett, we should get him on the show actually. But, Joel said, like, the east side of the river in Rochester is kind of like Manhattan. The west side is Brooklyn. And that really resonated with me, because I'm like, yeah, the west side's got like that, brick and natural stone, and just like that much more like sort of that historic value vibe to it, because that's like where the wealthy side of the city was, in the mid 1800s, late 1800s. And then everything kind of moved to the east side, and that side became disinvested, but those buildings still, a lot of those buildings still stand. So.
Yeah. Hey, we got Elam. I'm going to bring him in now.
Oh, sweet. Sorry I talked so long.
No, you're good.
It's like,
hey, Elam, how are you? No, you're in the right spot.
I'm good. How about you?
If we don't, good. So yeah, we usually kick it off by just having you give us your background, your origin story, kind of bring us up to speed on where you're at today.
Yeah. Well, which part do you want to hear?
The fun part.
Well, yeah. I grew up Amish. That's a part that people often find fascinating.
Wow.
Yeah.
And I don't really talk about the fun parts a lot. I talk about the hard parts, because those are the more meaningful.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Sure. But yeah, I left the Amish when I was 20, and I don't think I even really knew what the word real estate meant till I was like 25 or 30. It was a completely foreign concept. And then shortly after we got married, which is like 8 years ago, I'm like, I want to own a property. Yeah, that's probably when I started figuring out what real estate what it means.
Mm-hmm.
But I was like, well, I want to own it, but I don't want to pay for it.
Mm-hmm.
So we found one that had it's pretty big, 7-bedroom, and it was me, my wife, and our 1-year-old. I think he was about 1 at that time, barely. No, he was 6 months old. But anyway, we bought the house and then renovated it and moved into 2 rooms. The whole house had like 15 rooms, something like that.
Wow.
Well, I guess 3 rooms if you count the bathroom, but yeah, it's 7 bedrooms. And then we rented the rest out on Airbnb, and it just grew from there. That was
Nice.
the not fun part. I can tell you another not fun part right now. 2 days ago, I woke up and our Airbnb had taken our entire listing down. So I'm like, okay, well, what are we going to, or entire account down. I'm like,
Oh, wow.
I have no idea why. So that's the non-fun part. But ask me in a year, I'll probably laugh about it. Actually, I'm now.
Are you back up and running now, or are you still offline?
No, we're literally gonna have to create a new account and start fresh.
Oh my goodness.
Start all over. It really sucks. It really sucks.
Well,
did you figure out why, or sorry, man.
No, that's a lost cause.
Yeah.
Like you call in and they don't know. Oh, we don't know. Let me escalate this to the specialty team, which you can't get in touch with.
Mm-hmm.
Might be a month till they get it figured out, but I'm not waiting around for that.
Right.
Yeah. So your whole, were you I hate to speak in past tense because this is painful and probably fresh, but you were a super host, probably, maybe.
With thousands and thousands of reviews and a good track record. Yeah.
Holy good God. Well, okay. So one of the things I want to kind of tease on here.
I'm not wanting to talk about all the negative today. So
yeah. Well, no, I think it's important too, because there's people that, that listen and watch in here that are business owners. I know entrepreneur is kind of like an overused term that I think that, I don't know, I kind of equate it to being a mental illness, entrepreneurship. You need to be mentally ill, I think. But I think that when you're going through, I have a story
about that sometime, but yeah.
But when you're going through the suck, I think that if you can't if you can't like train yourself to have some humor about it, like you will go absolutely insane. And I just know like when I'm going through it, I'm like, all right, even like a month later, 2 months later, 6 months later, a year later, I know I'm going to look back on this and laugh and be like, how cool was that? How cool was that?
Yeah. Yeah. And trust me, right now I'm having to fight very violent thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
This is enough to make me want to wring someone's neck and go
Mm-hmm.
beyond that even. That's not the person I am, but that's and I'm also a very passionate person, and passionate people feel that stuff very keenly.
Mm-hmm.
Our emotions go through the roof.
Yeah.
But but the positive thing is, look, it's not the end of the world. I mean, it sucks,
Mm-hmm.
but and I'm sitting here thinking, all right, what am I going to get out of this? Sure, we have to start all over,
Mm-hmm.
and that's hours and hours and hours of work, and it's
Mm-hmm.
also going to mean probably not quite as good revenue right away. But maybe something good can come out of it.
Yeah, my thoughts come into my head here.
Hopefully not for Airbnb is my feeling, but
Dude, Mark, I'm having like the thoughts coming through my head. I was like, oh, you know what I would do is I would take screenshots of the thousands of reviews and like put them in the photographs on the actual listing. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
oh,
Well, that would be tempting, but it would. The thing is, on the new listing, I don't even want to talk about it because it's just going to make people stop and think, and then you
Mm-hmm.
lose them.
Mm-hmm.
Then they're moved on to some other listing.
Yeah.
Yep.
And these stories also, I mean, and I imagine there's a ton of other war stories that I can talk for hours about, and Mark can talk about for hours. Those war stories have actually been enabled me to be a better capital raiser, because the one thing that I ask when I am talking to anybody that I'm going to hire as a mentor or passively invest in myself is, tell me about the mistakes that you've made or the bad things that have happened and how you responded to them. If I hear, oh, you know what? We never really made a mistake before, I'm just like, okay, done talking.
Yep.
Nice to meet you. So,
Yep.
But backing up a little bit, Elam, obviously this, I guess fish out of water, you're 20 years old and I mean, I can't even imagine what the world looked like for you. I mean, maybe you had a little bit of a taste of it, like when you're, in your teens, that sort of thing, but this is part of your identity. So tell us about that.
It is. Here's kind of a funny little story that most people would just go, what? So, and backing up a little bit. So I was the bishop's son, and me leaving when I was 20, the whole process started like right when I was around my mid 19 or something like that. And I grew up very, very conservative. I grew up on a farm. I barely knew what vacation was. We went like to the Philadelphia Zoo 1 or 2 times and did a few other things. That was vacation, and there wasn't a lot of interaction with the outside world, right? So I was very unexposed, so to speak. And I kind of made this joke to someone last night. He sent me a 4-letter text, CRXN or something. I'm like, and I Googled it. I'm like, wait, what am I missing? Because I'm still, to this day, I'm still learning some of those slang things or even about general American society that it's like, I did not know that. I watched Star Wars for the first time, a week ago. That's just so foreign to a lot of people. But anyway, so this guy, I told him, I wasn't sure if that was like Amish naivete or if it was like, did that mean something? He said, oops, that was my son. But anyway, it was just like, I've not that I haven't seen a lot in the last 20 years. It's just, I'm not your typical American. I don't like pizza. I don't drink soda much. That's just kind of guy I am. But when I was 20, I started working for this guy when I was 19 in a welding shop. And then around 20, we were working late, and it's like, hey, let's just swing by McDonald's and grab a bite. I had never been to McDonald's. I had never in my life eaten fast food up to that point. I don't think. But anyway, I ate McDonald's that night and I got sick. You know, McDonald's, everyone knows what McDonald's is. Everyone has eaten at McDonald's. I did not. I grew up in a very isolated world.
Yeah.
So it was very different when I left what I grew up with, and I essentially started all over. My network of friends, my life. I walked away with clothes on my back and a couple pieces of furniture. That was it. I started all over when I was 22 or 21 or something like that. Completely started over, other than a couple of small things. Even my best friend turned into my biggest antagonist. So, yeah.
So how did, I just have this one question as a follow-up to that, and I'll get over to Mark. How did that experience sort of become formative to how you operate as a business owner now? I think it probably has given you a certain amount of superpower in terms of like that naivete. I don't know. Has it led to you being a more adaptable person? Like, I'm really curious about that.
Yeah. The good, the bad, and the ugly, shall we? I mean, the good thing is, I learned how to work hard from a very young age. Doesn't mean I'm always working smart, but at least I have the foundation, right? Because if someone's not willing to work, it doesn't matter how smart they are. You're not going to get anywhere. But just that's one of the good things. Even to a fault, though. I mean, to an extreme, like it's very, very hard for me to take a day off of work. It's just, I got to work. I mean, I've overcome some of that, but just worked very, very hard. And I mean, that's a good thing. The bad thing is sometimes I think I work hard to a fault. I kind of mentioned that, but okay, do I really have to work that hard? Do I really have to, like, why am of course it's a struggle. Life is a struggle for everyone, but it's just sometimes, does it have to be that much of a struggle? Can I get smarter about this?
Yeah.
But yeah, how did growing up Amish affect business? I'm not even really sure how to answer that. I mean, hey, I'm in the hospitality industry. Is it because I grew up Amish? Has that? Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I never slept at a hotel till I don't remember. We didn't sleep at hotels. We slept at friends' house. That's true hospitality. Yeah, you have to ask more specific questions to kind of jog my memory, but that's what comes to mind immediately. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't mean to make you a psychological specimen for me.
Yeah. I'll tell you one thing that I had to kind of learn is American society doesn't necessarily trust like the Amish do. So if an Amish person says something, you can pretty much depend on that. Like, I will do this. You know, we probably need lawyers, but not near as much as we actually do, because you just trust each other, not to rip each other off and stuff like that. So that's a good thing from my background. Now I had to learn to actually do legal, depend on lawyers and attorneys and stuff like that. But it was a bit of a learning curve, because it's like, this is actually important. I can't just wing it and go by people's word. Yeah.
So did you have a lot of carpentry before you left? Up until you were 20?
Some. Yeah, show me another culture in the world that can raise a barn in 5 days, right?
Right.
Uh,
I'm always looking for, I'm from central Pennsylvania, from Williamsport. And so we grew up near
okay,
the Amish. I have friends from Lancaster. But
yeah,
anytime we get any work done, we want the Amish to do it because we know
yep,
they're going to show up when they're supposed to. They're going to do an exceptional job and it's going to be done the
right.
right way.
They're not there to rip you off.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I didn't have a lot of experience growing up because I grew up on the farm, and
Mhm.
then I worked in a welding shop. Actually, my favorite job was tearing apart old smelly manure spreaders and rebuilding them. I just loved it because I was turning crap into gold.
Mhm.
Um, but then when I left, I started doing framing and then worked in a bunch of other trades. I did roofing for a number of years. So I worked in the trades for years. So I have years and years in the trades, but not necessarily from before I left the Amish.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And so what are you up to now? What's your trajectory? Are you managing for other people? Still just managing for yourself?
Yeah. So we did that first house that I mentioned, and that went very, very well. Our revenue, I think, was double than what I had projected, which that's a good problem. Um, Actually, sometimes more. So it was just like, well, hey, this is working. Maybe we could do this again. And about that time, my brother-in-law was moving to Tanzania for a number of years, and I'm like, hey, can we just take over your house and we'll pay your rent? I didn't know that rent arbitrage was a concept. It's just like, I could do this and this and this. And it's like, oh, later it's like, oh, that's actually a thing. Um, and then we just kind of kept growing that way in the rent arbitrage space. And then eventually bought a couple more buildings. And then like 3 years ago, we started 3 years ago, started managing for others. So we're out of the rent arbitrage now. I mean, hey, if someone enjoys it, great, go for it. That's just not my thing. Um, I want to own them, and then of course, manage for others because there's some cash flow there, and
Mhm.
we can it's just plug and play into our business as it was before 2 days ago. Uh, hey, well, yeah, we'll get back up. And we'll just have to figure out what to do, um, but then toward the end of last year, I was like, okay, we've kind of bootstrapped to where we are, which is about $3.5 million of property that we own, plus the ones that we manage. And it's like, okay, I really want to scale, so I'm gonna have to learn capital raising. So that's when so that's been the last couple of months is digging into that and getting some things in place. But kind of something exciting, pretty exciting right now is we have under contract, all but under contract, a 32 room motel, not a
Mhm.
hotel, a motel, like a Motel 6, which isn't my, I am not a Motel 6 guy. I can't stand it. um, Although I sleep in them, right? Because they're cheap. But it's not my business model. But and it's in a really good location. And I looked at it and I'm like, there's got to be a way to make this work because of location.
Mhm.
Uh, prime location, and it's a majorly underserved market in hospitality space. So I pulled my designers on a Zoom call and say, hey, look, this is what I'm looking at. Can we do something with it? And they're like, oh, we could do this and this and this and this and this. I'm like, oh, okay, all right, sure.
Mhm.
And then I have a bunch of other ideas, like take part of the roof off and set a couple storage containers on top of it. Or who knows what we'll do, but
Mhm.
something along those lines to give it a very unique twist, which brings me to where we are going is, so if you do standard, then you have to be efficient to make money,
Mhm.
or you buy really well or something. But if you do unique, you don't have competition, not near as much.
Mhm.
So that's where we're going as a company is to produce wanting to produce very unique stuff. We just did this 9 bedroom recently, um, and what people are paying for that place is just crazy. It's like, good grief.
Mhm.
Um, and we recently had 2 people we had someone inquire about the place, and I'm just giving you a picture of the demand here for the place because it's so unique. There's no other property around like it. It's probably the most unique vacation rental in the Poconos, which is about 10,000 listings. But anyway, someone contacted us about the place, and they were getting their stuff together, but our policy is first come, first serve. Whoever puts the money down first gets it.
Mm-hmm.
So, it took them a week or so, maybe even more, and there was some back and forth, but then someone else booked it. And then shortly thereafter, they wanted to go book it. And I said, I'm sorry, someone else took it. It's first come, first serve. We don't block dates for you, because what if you don't follow through, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so they offered me thousands of dollars more if I would just go and cancel that other person, and let them in. I said, no, we're not going to do that, because once you book, we're not going to go and cancel on you. Would you like me to do that to you? I mean, I didn't say that, but hey, I mean, of course you wouldn't, right?
Mm-hmm.
But they went on and on for like 2 days straight, egging me and begging me and bothering me. It says, no. So they had the dates picked out, but they wanted that property. It's like, no, we are getting this property. Say, I can't. Please, we'll give you thousands more. So the picture there is we created something very unique, and there's so much demand. Here's a key phrase. It's capturing people's imaginations. And that is what sells. So with this hotel, we want to do very unique things in those little boxy rooms, maybe extend them with shipping containers or different things we do, add some unique amenities to the place that captures people's imaginations. People will pay for comfort. People would pay for luxury, but they will pay more for something that captures their imagination.
Yeah. So how did you achieve that on that one property? Like, was it, are you the genius behind the curtain, or is it like the design, like is your crack design team that comes up with this? Like, tell us about that process.
Yeah, that's a bit tear jerking because it's so meaningful to me. I mean, it literally, like, it might bring a tear to my eye just because it's so meaningful. So we have a subcontractor handyman guy that works a lot with us, and him and I are really good friends, which is very meaningful when your business relationships turn into meaningful friends, and that's exactly what happened with him. And then we have two designers, or a main design person, but the two work together, and then I'm also there. I'm kind of the big ideas, but as far as, what colors to use, what exact piece of furniture, it's not necessarily where I'm strong, although I do have design. I do have a design bent, but more on the big picture, big idea level. So we were just at that property 2 days ago. I think it was 2 days ago. And we walked the property and we're just looking at each other and we said, look what we did. It was a we, not a me. It wasn't a design team only. It was a we. Of course, everyone kind of had their space. The handyman guy kind of had his space, but he knows how I think. He knows what I want. He knows what the vision is. And the same way with design team. So we're bouncing ideas off of each other. It's like, I kind of have this idea. What can we do with it? We'll start throwing around ideas. And before we know it, it's like, hey, that is amazing. Let's do it. But I cannot underline enough. It was a we thing, not a me thing.
So on these value add projects, how are you financing them? Especially if you need to do something crazy like add shipping containers or extend, units or whatever.
Right. Yeah, it's the short-term rental space is a little bit harder to fund at times. So it's not. I mean, the multifamily guys. If you guys are in multifamily, hats off to you. Keep doing it. It's like, man, it's a walk in the park. Other than the volume, I'm sure getting it financed and all that. It's more straightforward. But anyway, this property I was talking about, where the 9 bedrooms, we just did this crazy design. And here's, by the way, one thing we did. We put in a mystery room. well, what's that? Well, that's the whole idea, right? It's like, wait, what's that? But we made it hidden. You know, people have to find it, and they enjoy the process. But anyway, how did I fund it? So I saw the property, or a realtor brought it to me like last February or something like that, and I was kind of caught up in some other things. I didn't really like pursue it, and then after I was like, wait, there's something here. And I looked at it, and it's like, it's just very, very unique architecture. Like you know how these architects, the guys that actually design buildings, when they make their own, it's so like others like, good grief, what's that? But it's also like, hey, this is really cool. For example, one of the bathrooms has pink and blue tile. It's just like, well, that looks odd. Well, that's outdated. No, it's not actually. That's good retro. There's stuff like that. So I was seeing that type of stuff, and I'm like, wait, I want this property. And then I walked it, and I'm like, there's not a question of whether I want this property. There's a question of how. And I'm like, how am I going to get this funded? But a weird thing is I had just hired a company to get me to help me with getting some funding, as in lines of credits and stuff like that. And I'm like, whoa, I have about $500,000 in lines of credit that I can do something with. So I'm like, okay, maybe I can pull this off with that. It's not, I don't like that quite, but it's like, well, push comes to shove, that's what I can do. So anyway, I put an offer in on the property he was asking 1.8, put an offer in at 1.5 to give myself a little bit of room and all of that, if there's some negotiation. But I wasn't willing to pay 1.8. The numbers were just too. I don't like to pay retail. I like to give myself a bit more cushion. So I'll find something that no one else wants, so I have a little bit of room. So okay, he agreed to 1.5, got out of a contract, and contingent on financing and appraisal and all that. So 1.5, and the appraisal came back at 0.8. Not 1.8, 0.8. And I'm like, oh man, now what am I going to do? And of course I second guessed myself. I was like, wait, am I like, yeah, what's going on here? But we all looked at the appraisal, and it's just a piece of trash. They had comped. So this was 4 acres, 9 bedrooms, 10,000 square feet, 2 pools. And so they're going after properties, 1 acre, 6,000 square feet, 5 bedrooms, no pool. It's just like, this isn't even a comp. But the problem was there was nothing out there like it. It's just a very, very, very unique property. And but anyway, got it back, and I'm like, good grief, now what do I do? I really, really want this property. And I had asked the agent, and of course he asked the seller, it's like, would you do seller financing? And it's like, nah. But then he came back to me as soon as the appraisal came back. It's like, hey, send me an offer in the first lien position, and I'll look at it. All right. And I'm like, okay. So it appraised at 0.8. What if something goes sideways? I can't just go sell the property. So I'm like, I'm taking on a bit more risk. So I'm like, okay, I'll give you $1.25 million for it, and 84% financing at 7.75 interest with a 4-year balloon. So in 4 years, I have to refinance or do something. But that gives me time to do 3 years of history and be able to do a DSCR loan.
Yeah.
So that's how I funded that one. This motel, what I actually did with that one is, it's like, so it has 10 acres, and like 7 acres in the back is industrial. I'm not interested in industrial. I don't want to have to go figure it out. So I put it in a group that I was part of, said, hey, is there anyone in here interested in industrial land? I have a hotel that I have my eye on. The deal doesn't make sense with just a hotel. Someone want to join me? And so I joined up with 2 other guys, and we have it all but under contract now. And we are doing almost half of it seller finance on that one. So we get a bank loan on it, probably a construction loan, to be able to rehab it. But if we get what we think we can get, if we can get like 70% loan to cost, and we have a bunch of other financing on it, we'll be able to swing it and then refinance it when it's done. So that's
what's
the other thing
plan?
is just a normal bank loan, but yeah, I like the seller finance stuff, creative finance.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, what's the plan with the industrial land in the back there? So it's zoned industrial, or is it currently used as some type of industrial use?
No, it's just raw land. It's not even entitled. So it's about 3 acres with the hotel, and then 7 acres industrial. And so, and it's in a area where industrial is really good. And here's the nice thing about that deal. We're not only getting seller finance, we're also getting a good deal. The hotel is in pretty bad shape, although to me it's worth $1 million because I don't have to put up new walls. But they're valuing it at just the land value. But anyway, then what we're looking to do is put up some kind of industrial building, and maybe do a triple net or something. Like, I didn't want to figure out the entitlements and figure out industrial. It's like, that's going to take me a long time. I might make a mistake, and it's just, I'm in the hospitality, stay in my lane, and partner with other people.
Smart.
Yeah. But yeah, there's a lot of opportunity just to actually use the zoning that's there and, put up a big building or something. Build to suit, maybe we're not sure yet, but we'll see.
So are you just operating in the Lancaster area?
No, well, we're in the Poconos. The one that I talked about, that's in the Poconos. We're also some in like central PA and Washington, D.C. as well. We're spread out a little bit. So there's 2 different ways to go about it with short-term rentals. One is you can focus on one area, or you can focus on one type of property. We're not perfectly in the focusing on one type of properties portfolio yet, but that's where we're going with it. We're particular about the type of property, so then that just kind of spreads you out a little bit. Like that unique one in the Poconos. I'm not going to find another one like it right away in the Poconos.
Yeah. And then you're doing all the management yourself?
Yeah. Yeah, me and my team, we have our in-house management crew.
And then you just find vendors, per area for cleaning and.
Correct. Which is a lot of fun. Yeah, they don't always.
Yeah, so
work out the first time.
Yeah, one of the things is that the motel space, the tired motel owners, and also those flags that nobody really wants to stay at anymore, unless they're soliciting prostitution and all that stuff.
I know
it's
awful.
Yeah, they're turning into great opportunities for repositioning in those properties, because these travelers, like, oh man, like I love the JW Marriott concept, but some people is like, I just want something that's like more like unique, more Americana, something that's got actual like unique character to it and that sort of thing. And so I actually have some colleagues that have bought some of these tired motels from tired motel owners.
Yeah.
And some of them actually just like the flags are not in line with the markets that these properties are in. So they make the owners go through this. Well, you got to upgrade these to specs. What do they call them? PIPs. And the owner's just like, dude, you're making me do something that's not even relevant for my market and making me spend all this money to keep your flag. Like, F it. I'm out. And then they're out altogether. And, this is, and a lot of times banks won't finance motels that have no flag and that have declining occupancy and declining ADR. So it presents a great opportunity for seller financing as well, so that these owners can get actually some mailbox money and get some and also defer their capital gains and all that good stuff.
Correct.
And there's these people that are coming in like yourself that are coming in with these just amazing concepts that just like, gosh, yeah, we have like a couple people. There's one actually, that I went to, I stayed at, that was in the Catskills. It's called the Urban Cowboy. These guys bought an old 4-H camp that had like a main like lodge, like dining, like kind of like lodge, dining hall, like that sort of thing, and then cabins on the property. And this thing was on the market forever because, like, I was like, who the hell is gonna stay at this? And these guys out of Brooklyn brought in an amazing design team and totally gave the property a new vibe. They used like natural materials, and they actually didn't even spend that much money on like terms of like giving a facelift. They wanted to honor the look of the old place, but kind of like weave in new design concepts. And they use like a lot of like art. They actually use like a lot of artists and that sort of thing to do it. And it's just, the property is absolutely just unbelievable. And they're getting amazing daily rates out of that property.
And that's the thing, is back to the thing about capturing people's imagination. So look at the Gen Z and the millennial generation. For them, meaning in daily life is important. And a more baby boomer type of mindset is going to look at the Gen Zs and the millennials as, you weirdos. Well, the weird thing, the weird thing is about that is, oh yes, that's who I am. Cool. I mean, it's kind of like the baby boomer is throwing an insult, and especially the Gen Z is like, you betcha. So it's a different mindset. And what that generation, I'm the very, very edge of that generation. I barely fit into it, although I kind of do in some ways. But it's just like, give me something different. Motel 6, one box beside another box beside another box, all stinking the same. Oh, you know what? Let's break it up a little bit and add one more bed. No, that's not different. That's just more of the same. Come on. So, yeah, and the thing with this motel that we're looking to buy is the owner has owned it for like 20 years. The building did its job for her. It's not like some of these commercial buildings that we're seeing that just went empty over and after COVID. That's like, uh-oh, now what? It's like, no, this owner is just it ran full cycle. Now it's time to give it a different twist and run a new cycle. The cycle that I'm running might not be the cycle in 20 years from now, but it's a cycle today. And so we're jumping on it.
What are you doing to identify good locations that are going to be profitable for an Airbnb model versus, maybe somebody that's out there looking for term rentals? With term rentals, it's pretty easy. What are you doing for Airbnb that might be a little bit different?
Yeah. And before I answer that question, which I'll start answering the question with this little story. So because I'm in the short-term rental space and more people know me as a short-term rental guy, right? I mean, occasionally I get messages on Facebook saying, hey, Elam, look at this house. And I'm like, how did you know I'm in short-term rentals? But people, I guess they just know. They follow me on Facebook, whatever. But a lot of people come to me, or have come to me anyway, asking, and they show me a property. It's like, hey, would this work as a short-term rental? I don't know. What are you going to do with it? It could, and maybe it couldn't. It depends what you're going to do with it. So that's the one part of it is looking at a building and looking at the opportunity of the building, not just the location. Now, the perfect opportunities there's opportunity in the location and there's opportunity in the building. So this motel, prime location, like the reason I'm getting it, and because I'm not competing against everyone else, is it's not the type of deal most people are interested in. But anyway, prime location, and then a major value add, a major opportunity in the building. And I'm excited about the value add because I love turning crap into gold. And also I can get it at a discount and make it what I want. I'm not going to go buy a very well upkept Motel 6 right away. I'm not interested in that business model. But so that's the one aspect is, but how do I find these places, right? How do I find the areas? But again, it's not just the area, it's also the property. But how do I find the area aside from just the whole short-term rental ordinances quagmire? I mean, I spend a lot of time looking at ordinances to see if X, Y, and Z property is going to be allowable as a short-term rental. But I start with, the obvious concept: where are the people? Where are the people going, right? Well, if you go out into, I'm sure there's short-term rentals in Idaho. I should actually look, but are there a lot? Probably not, because there's not a lot of people there. But where some of the most densely populated part of the U.S. is the section from Boston to Washington, D.C. And I'm like, I could spend the next 20, 30 years buying billions and billions of dollars worth of short-term rental, and I still would not be done. So that's the one. So, that's the macro. And then I narrow it down. Okay, where are the pockets where people are going? So I live in just west of Lancaster City. Lancaster City is hot. So that's a good place to buy as far as location, except the prices are high. But yeah, I start with the macro, and then I kind of look into, where are those pockets within that? And some people go after like really hot locations and then give it a twist. That is one thing we've done. But I look, you have to have volume. Otherwise, obviously, right? You have to have volume, have to have some sort of attraction. You have to be close to people. Like the Pocono Mountains, 30 million people within an hour and a half, 2 hour drive. It's insane. 30 million people, that's a lot of people.
That's why when you said central Pennsylvania, I was scratching my head, like, what's in central Pennsylvania that you're buying Airbnbs around?
Yeah, well, true. And that's the thing is we actually have one central Pennsylvania. It's working. Looking back, I probably wouldn't do that again.
Was that like Harrisburg area or?
It's north of Harrisburg, and it's like 3-4 hours from in a major metropolis. So the thing.
Where is it? I'm just curious. Where is it?
Beavertown.
No, I don't know where Beavertown is.
It's an hour north of Harrisburg. Actually, it's. Where did you say you're from again?
Williamsport. It's got to be near there because we're north of Harrisburg.
Yeah. Beaver Springs.
Okay.
If you want to look it up on Airbnb right now, you won't be able to find it.
Ouchies, as my daughter would say. Let's switch gears here because you're in the capital raising space now. Tell us about that and what's your focus on that right now? What's the plan?
Yeah, I really want to grow our portfolio value by 20 million this year. So, yeah, I don't know. Maybe that's ambitious. Maybe that's crazy. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's possible. But my network. I grew up Amish, and then I was overseas as a volunteer worker for a number of years. Within a church setting. So, and then I got into business here a couple of years ago. But even that was just very small business. So I don't have a huge network of super wealthy people. So it's like, okay, I'm going to have to build my network. But yeah, just wanting to kind of set things up for that, continue. I've been doing some of it already, but here in the next couple of weeks is set up a CRM to just be able to do it more on scale. But it's a little bit of a unique space to raise capital for. It's, I go to these multifamily things and it's pref equity and it's this and it's that. And I'm like, how do you do that on a short-term rental? I'm not going to do a syndication for a $500,000 property. That doesn't make sense. I'm not going to spend $20,000 on that. It's like kills the deal.
Yeah.
Well, unless it's a really, really good one, but yeah.
Mhm.
So yeah, I'm kind of figuring it out. It's like, I think I'm going to have to focus more on like boutique type of investors.
Mhm.
I don't think institutional money is going to work very well for me. Unless I maybe set up a fund.
Yeah.
Maybe I should set up a fund. I don't know. Who knows?
Yeah. Have you talked to Jack Krupe about this at all?
Jack Krupe, who's that?
Oh, you're connected to him on Facebook. So I just said he's he's in Raise Masters. Mark is. I'm not, but I'm both him and I are friends with Jack, and he does a fund of funds model, and there's like a good and bad part of the fund model, right? Because like
Jack Krupe.
and this is the way
Now I remember now. Yeah. I'm not sure it would work with him. I know how he thinks, and I'm not sure it would be his thing. I don't know.
Oh, what I'm saying is like on the actual structure side of things, because like the syndication model on a deal by deal basis, unless you're buying like a huge giant like enormous package of properties where there's the economies of scale to pull that off. But the fund model is you can raise on a deal by deal basis by keeping the fund open.
Correct.
And then as you acquire new properties in the fund and do a raise each time for that fund, the benefit to the investors, they get diversification as you acquire more deals.
Yeah.
So and the thing that I thought about, when I was originally friends with people that were in the fund space, I was like, they're doing a $50 million raise, and and they had like 2 properties in the fund. I was like, what are you gonna do with the rest of the cash? Like like what do you got to like feed the beast? And it takes a long time to raise like $50 million. So in the time is like as the coffers get expanded and they are working on their deal flow, then those properties get added in, and then when they get to a certain critical mass, then they close the fund and run it. But yeah, no, I was talking about Jack because he's actually coming into Rochester he's doing a workshop. We called it OPM Mastery, a guide to raising private capital. And so he's coming into Rochester for a Saturday workshop. It's a half-day workshop. And the 3 avatars we're talking about as targets for that is, 1, people that are growing like us in the space that want to learn how to raise capital. 2, the second avatar is people that are tired landlords that want to learn how to passively invest. And then the third, which is the most appealing to me, is I'm not a tired landlord yet because fortunately I was able to create a management company just to manage my stuff and also the stuff that I own with my partner. So that doesn't bog me down, but I'm getting tired of like chasing deals. So, and my eyes are reverting to other markets. So, the third avatar is people that are tired of looking at deals, good at raising capital, but don't necessarily want to, run that whole other process. Like, I just want to raise the money, find the best operators and sponsors, and then partner with them on deals and that sort of thing. So yeah, we're talking about all 3 of those, kind of like talking to those 3 different types of people. So.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I should hit him up, see what he thinks. But I talked to him briefly to Jack is what I'm referring to. But yeah, I'm just not sure that what I'm doing would actually fit into his model. Maybe it would. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, maybe. I think that they're like largely opportunistic. I mean, he's done mobile home parks, self-storage, ground up development deals, traditional multifamily type of stuff. So, but yeah, no, he's got a diverse background. I mean, he was like in the trench, I knew him when he was in the trenches, like, buying foreclosure properties, going to the sheriff's auctions, that sort of thing, fixing and flipping, wholesaling, and to kind of, I followed him since, and it's just like had such a diverse background. But yeah, no, I mean, I'm good at raising capital. The deal finding sort of thing, because I'm so damn picky, is kind of is usually is usually the most constrictive bottleneck
Mm-hmm.
to us, just because like, I don't know, I just don't have the testicular fortitude to do what some of these other guys are doing out here in terms of like, just kind of like, I don't know, forcing the numbers to work. And fortunately in the previous market cycle we had, it was like, they were winning at that point in time. So I think the tides have changed a bit. So
I'm kind of going through a little bit of so recently I put lots of offers in on deals and I'm losing them by $20,000. And I'm like, wait, am I being too picky? Like, if you think about it, if I would get one deal as opposed to not, I might make that $20,000. I might make that $20,000 back as opposed to just like doing nothing. But then again, hey, I have that motel, I found that deal, found some other deals. So, hey, I don't know, maybe it's worth the wait.
Yeah.
It's definitely balancing. That's for sure.
I don't look at a deal whether I can make money on it or not. I look at it whether I can make the money I want to make on it. I'm not just, it's just not, this to me, it's like, the question is, will it cash flow isn't the right question. Will it cash flow enough is the question.
Yeah. So we're winding up to the top of the hour. I don't know if you got anything else you want to ask, Matt?
Well, I guess Elam. So right now, from a capital raising space, you're building your network, correct?
Correct.
So how are you doing that with what's your plan and intentionality? I mean, going on stuff like this and podcasts and that sort of thing is definitely one tool in the tool belt. But what else are you doing out there to remain active on the building your network?
Yeah, I mean, I'm on Facebook and I spend a lot of time on this thing. I'm doing it the old-fashioned right now, the old-fashioned way. But yeah, I'd like to get on the LinkedIn more. I've been becoming a bit more active on LinkedIn. But again, I'm just at very beginning stages of stuff. But yeah, jumping on podcasts, networking, going to meetups. I'm actually going to the Best Ever conference, which is 2-3 weeks or so. It's just a way to build networks, build relationships. It's fun. You have a hoot with people, but in the process, maybe do some business together. Actually, at Raise Fest is where we kind of finalized the partnership for this motel that we're doing. So
nice.
That was, that paid for the ticket.
Yeah, Matt, you're gonna have to come to Raise Fest next year.
Yeah.
Oh man, I'm allowed to go to one conference a year, so we'll see if it makes the cut. Okay, so
it's a good conference.
Unless it's like where is it next year, by the way?
I don't think they've announced it yet.
No, they haven't.
Okay.
They sold tickets, but they haven't announced where.
Yeah.
Okay. So I felt like absolute garbage. I went to BPCon in October. That was in Orlando without my family. And so here I was, we had like, Magic Kingdom, that sort of thing, like a stone's throw away from where the conference was. And, my kids weren't there. So, next conference I go to, I definitely want to bring the family and turn it into a trip, But we also need to bring like a couple of friends or the in-laws with it, because I don't know if, do you have one kid or do you have more?
We have two.
Elam?
We have two.
You have two.
Yeah.
So one of the things is like being with the kids with other people around is cool. It just sucks when it's like you and just the kids, because it just feels very, very lonely as an adult. At least that's how I feel.
Okay. Yeah.
Well,
I'm glad you love your family.
I'll be bringing my 12-year-old to Raise Fest. He can watch the kids. So if you trust a 12-year-old, bring your family. I'll bring my family. The girls can hang out at the hot tub and.
Yeah.
Yeah, I trust a 4-year-old to watch my daughter, keep her companionship rather than watching herself. It's when the kids are by themselves is when they get into trouble.
Yeah.
So maybe that changes when they get into teenage years, but we're not there. We're not there yet. So, all right, man. Well, that's it. That's it. This went by fast. This was a lot of fun, Elam. Thanks for coming.
Thanks,
For
Elam.
coming on, and especially thanks for coming on while your hair is on fire with this whole Airbnb thing. Yeah, I know. I can't even imagine.
I know. Yeah, it's. Trust me. I have to fight anger on that one.
Yeah. So. Yeah. No, absolutely.
Yeah, Burr. All right. Well, hey, thanks for having me on. I really enjoyed this. I just love sharing my story. So this is a hoot.
Awesome. Thanks everybody for tuning in, and we will see you next Thursday at 2:00.
See ya.